He looked at me, I looked at him, our eyes locked, and I felt instantaneous love and affection towards this boy. And for some reason, I turned to the being next to me and I said, "Is this my son?" And the answer, very robotic, was, "This is your son."
Talking again with Maria Cuccia. The book, his name is Elijah. We talked about that in the previous interview. I wanted to go back and focus now on her music. This is a different kind of meditation music. I'll play snippets. We've got several here that I'm going to address and just filter in throughout the show. And then I'll do a compilation. This is meditation music, and it's beautiful. Transitions. I want to go back to the album, your experience and what brought you here, and then get into the music. How's that?
Sure. Yes. First off, thank you, Wendy. It's so good to be speaking with you again. So back in 1992, I was 32 years old and mother of 3 children, married, had a home on Long Island, put the children to sleep. My husband and I had gone to bed. It was just an average, ordinary day. All I remember is that something just woke me up at 3:15 in the morning. And I remember just seeing a glare of light, in the bedroom. Why was the bedroom all lit up? So I rolled over on my back and it looked like this tremendous beam of white light just emanating from the ceiling. And I stared at it and then suddenly felt electricity racing through my body. And the next thing I know, I felt as if I was being elevated at a rapid pace. And I just remember suddenly standing on what appeared to be a spacecraft. And this is all conscious memory. And I remember seeing 3 beings standing next to me and communicating telepathically. And they were wearing hooded robes. I really do not remember facial features, but what I do remember is white light emanating from where their faces should be. And one of them was instructing me to look at a large glass window. And when I looked out the large glass window, I saw a huge group of children and many, many children. And the next thing I remember is what appeared to be a woman bringing one of the children forward, and he appeared to be a boy of the age around 8 years old. And he was brought forth. He looked at me, I looked at him, our eyes locked, and I felt instantaneous love and affection towards this boy. And for some reason, I turned to the being next to me and I said, "Is this my son?" And the answer, very robotic, was, "This is your son." And I said, "What is his name?" And the answer was, "His name is Elijah." And that was the most profound moment of just feeling connection to this boy. And he looked at me, I looked at him, and I just remember him slowly waving his hand left to right. And the beings basically told me a few things and then said, "It is time for you to return." but when we return you, we want you to look up the meaning of his name. And that's when I felt myself going downward again at a rapid pace and just feeling that electricity. And the next thing I know, I sat up in bed. I was sweating, shaking, and I kept hearing, look up the meaning of his name, look up the meaning of Elijah. And that's when I went down the hall, looked up the meaning, and the name means the Lord is my Savior. And I just remember that night so vividly.
Did this feel like an out-of-body experience or physical? Were you able to discern?
I remember at the time it felt physical, but now, 30 years have passed, so you wonder. I wonder, maybe it wasn't out of body. You wonder. I have all these questions now, I have no answers, and I have a lot of questions.
That's a profound experience, and you've written about it, and you've talked about it, but the thing that really is impactful is the music. That's a part of you that's, I think, a core. So how did you connect with that?
Well, that was one of the message that I was told. It was almost like, when I said the beings, there was some communication, and it was almost like this question, what is the universal language? And again, I was young at the time, and this whole thing was so surreal for me. But what I do remember is being told that music, it was like they were making sure that I understood that music is the universal language, because music evokes emotion, and everyone can relate to that. And so that was like this message of a way of communication would be done through music. And it was like I was being instructed that I had to compose music. But I remember saying, but I don't compose music. I was a pianist. I was classically trained. So this message that I was receiving baffled me. I was like, I don't, I studied, pieces, like very complex classical pieces. I never composed anything. So at that time, I was confused. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? What does that mean? But not only that, it was, what the heck happened to me? What is there a boy? If you'll recall, I had told you the only thing I could think of is that I had a miscarriage 8 years prior, where I passed the fetal sac, but the fetus wasn't inside. So here I'm left wondering, could this really possibly be my son? And the music I was confused about. So what did I do? I was searching for answers. I was running here, running there, seeing a psychiatrist, seeing a psychotherapist. I got a brain scan at the time. Is there something wrong? Am I hallucinating? I went to a priest. And the more I searched, the more frustrated I became, because no one really understood why I was so fixated on this experience, and I couldn't let it go. So when all else failed, I turned to prayer and meditation. I remember on a daily basis, I would put the children on the school bus. They'd go to school. My husband would go to work. And I just I put a blanket on the floor. I did have a piano studio where I taught piano lessons. So I did lie on the floor in my studio, and I prayed, and I asked for guidance, and I asked for clarity. What is this all about? That is when I started to hear the most incredible sounds and vibrations. But not only did I hear these sounds, I was seeing numbers, because I, of course, understood music theory, and I would teach music theory to my students. So I was seeing numbers and hearing sound. And then I would just come out of the meditation like, what was that all about? So I started to journal the numbers, and patterns of numbers, and would sit at the piano and try to play some of these scale tones. I was playing with it, and I was like, no, this isn't it. This isn't it. And then it hit me. I've got to get a synthesizer. So again, this is all new because I was just a regular piano teacher and never did anything with the electronics of synthesizers that were new to the music industry at the time. And, but something compelled me, and I bought the synthesizer. I had to learn how to operate it. But what started to happen then, because again, I was meditating on a daily basis, I started writing down the number of patterns, and I would hear sound, and then I started to come out of the meditation, put on headphones, sit at the keyboard, and try to mimic those sounds. And that's how it all began. It just started coming to me that way. The next thing I knew is like, okay, this is beautiful. I found it beautiful, and I needed help. Again, one of the messages was, we'll send people to you. We will send people to you. All of this is in my journals, messages that I would receive during the meditations. And I went to the music store to buy some sheet music for one of my students, and just started a conversation with someone at the music store. And I said, by the way, do you know anything about recording music? And sure, and it was just like, could you help me? And that's how it happened. I just had people helping me, just entering my life at different times. And I said, let me try to record and see if there's any interest.
I had listened to your meditations, and they're beautiful. What I want to do, the thing that you said, you felt this electricity as you were in your bed being pulled up. There's an electrical element in your music. I mean, at least I felt charged, and I could feel this, and I was trying to figure out, how do I explain this? And then listening to you, I'm thinking, well, it's electric. That's it. But there's a buzz.
Vibration. It's all this.
Yes, it's activating. When we talked in January, I remember when I first heard the music, I was thinking, there's something unique about it, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But then hearing you say that electricity, oh my gosh, it's that simple. It's that simple. It's electric. So that's part of it. But there's also something about this is an album you put out in 1997, and I was listening to it, and it's about control, and I'm thinking, nothing has changed. This is, there's all this information, and lots of talk right now about disclosure is happening. And, I'm sorry, I've never been a fan, because for me, it has a lot more to do with getting people to out themselves so that they can be studied as lab rats. It's much more about getting access to experiencers and following them without ever validating their story. And then also it's about reprimanding and silencing true whistleblowers, because they are a threat. There is a lot going on here that we really don't understand. And it isn't just a human thing. It's another thing that determines what information comes out, who it comes through, and how many people have access, and how long it will be accessible. There's just so much more to it. And it's been fascinating to me to understand how solid that resistance is, even when it looks like there's a potential for some information. It comes out in dribs and drabs, and it comes out from the most unlikely sources who've either been discredited or in some way shamed or ostracized, and then all of a sudden you find out 40 years later everything they said was true.
Well, that's what I'm going through right now. People from my past are apologizing to me. They wrote me off as schizophrenic.
There was nowhere to put it. There's another person I talked with, and he's older now, so he's stopped doing the interviews and stuff. He's 87, and his story is just so full of details, descriptions. He's an engineer, so he has the ability to do the drawings and the memory at the time to get it all put down in writing. So when he did get older, he wouldn't have to worry about losing his memory. That's part of it. A lot of the people who've had these extraordinary experiences are aging out of our system. I think that was the whole point, was to make sure that by the time anything came to fruition that could validate the resources and the stories that people were telling, they would no longer exist. And that's very effective. But more and more people are encountering these unusual, extraordinary, unexplainable events and not afraid to talk about it.
Yes. That's why it's fabulous. People like you, look at what you're doing. You're providing a platform. I mean, you yourself had experiences, and that's the issue. That's the point of why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's just helping others to say, oh, she could talk about that, then I could share my story. And that's what I'm encouraging as well, through many people are sending emails with that. But the more we speak, the more we realize that our reality is not what most of us think it is. And we do need to speak about this.
I was studying recently some of the information that has come out about the missing scientists. And then they're talking about two recent ones, one who disappeared, I think, in the summer of 2025, and another one just recently. And it's unexplained. But the fact that they are plugged in ways that connect them to NASA, to plasma, to all sorts of cutting-edge science. And there was one who disappeared in 1994, and his name is Jacobo Grimberg. And I was fascinated by his story years ago. And when they finally did a documentary in 2020, it was like, yes, somebody's finally, looking for this. Mm-hmm. He was studying the fact that reality isn't what we think it is. That it's an interface, that the brain interfaces with another element, an other element. And so then we experience it in that way, not really in a direct way. And I thought, oh my gosh, that means a phase shift. All these kinds of things are possible, which explains why we can sometimes see things others don't. If we are in sync with that phase, if we are altered in some way, or in some way also aligned, then so much of this makes sense. And again, he disappeared in 1994. I don't think that was an accident. And I don't know where he went. I'm not trying to, make any kind of a call that it was a nefarious thing. Because when I look at this on these other broader scales, when people just disappear, sometimes it isn't accidental. It's somebody got curious enough to walk through a portal and then couldn't figure out how to get back.
Interesting. I know. So interesting.
Well, so there's more to this. There's a lot more to this. Yeah. And with your music, though, I think you have the ability to connect with people who don't have any other way to express themselves and need an outlet that says it's okay to be who I am, to be original, to be different, to be unique, to be a square peg, and not looking for any way to connect except to accept what I am and who I represent and how I express myself. There's so much of it now where people don't feel comfortable in their own skin. And that's huge. I think that's one of the big problems we're looking at right now globally, is how to figure out what value diversity offers instead of trying to repress it and make everybody a clone.
That's the problem now. Exactly.
Your experience with the others, the ETs, the aliens, how does that work now? I mean, what is your influence? Because you have mentioned that you're working with your son on the music.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm being called to do it again. I purged everything when I moved to Florida, so I no longer have my keyboards and my piano, and everyone knows that I'm saying I've got to get it back. I want to start doing that again because I am hearing the music again. It goes in waves, and so I feel that first thing was to do what I'm doing right now, get the book was more of a reminder of who I am, you know, the reflection, get it all out and refresh at this stage of my life. And I am writing the next book, which I think I told you, which will be more focused on the recall of what I went through then and mix it with what I'm feeling now. I mean, again, what does it mean? You know, that's the big question. What does it mean in the end? I'm not sure. But back then, when I was doing it and I recorded and just recorded, you know, as I said, someone taught me how to record, put it on cassette tape. My brother happened to have a store at the time, and like it was actually called Out of This World. He sold gifts and gadgets and toys, and I said, just play this in the background, because I didn't know then why am I doing this? What am I supposed to do with it? It was always my question, you know? And so the guidance was just play it. And my brother called me one day and he said, I have a customer who wants to buy the cassette. It was this is just really a simple cassette, no real packaging or anything. And I said, really? He said, she's saying she must have this music, you know, what should I do? What should I do? So that's what started it. So just that one customer wanting to purchase that made me think, okay, maybe I should learn now how to package these, you know. And again, I met somebody and can you help me? What does it take? You know, I had to have barcodes on my, and I started packaging. So again, the messages aren't like, okay, Maria, this is what you have to do now. You know, it's just, it would come as the, you know, as what people would call an intuition maybe, but not really, because it felt like a stronger type of guidance. Like I had to go somewhere at a certain time and I just felt, okay, you're the person I'm supposed to meet. And then I would just blurt out the question and it would open up a door for me, you know? So what happened then, I started packaging, recording, and then I received another call from someone one day. And initially I was just selling in my brother's store, and then received a call one day from someone who is a very popular DJ in New York, you know, like with house music and all of that. But he purchased my meditation music, and he called me and he said, I have to meet you. He said, I listened to your music, and I have to tell you, he had lost his father, and he said while listening to the music, he could swear that his father's image just emerged. And he saw him. He felt that he was communicating. He said it was because of the music. So I started to meet with him, and again, he was dealing with house music, but he introduced me to someone who had a record label and said they want to put, you know, one of your meditation tracks on a compilation CD. Here I'm signing a record deal. Again, are you serious? You know, he said, yeah, because in the clubs with the house music, they had this room where then they called it a chill room, which now is popular. Back then it was brand new.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was way ahead of not consciously seeking any of this. It was just going with the flow, like being that feather in the wind. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know, are you somebody I'm supposed to meet? Let's see what happens. So then the music was getting out that way, and then I had somebody in California who was selling. He would go to the music expos in LA, and he had, I don't even remember how, I had heard of, maybe I don't know, saw something and reached out to him to ask a question. He said, let me sell your meditation music, because then I had a few albums now and was calling it Healing Music by Elijah. So he said, let me see, I'll, I'll sell these at the music expo. Let me see what we can do. So next thing I know, I get a phone call. He said, Maria, your music sold out. Out of all the music that he had, he said, there's something about your music. Again, I was just exploring all of this. So it was just such a journey. And then the next thing, I was written up in a New Age magazine as, New Artist of the Year. Then he was the one who said, what inspired you to create this? I said, well, and at that time is when I was also, at the same time, people around me, I was struggling with the story. So I was channeling it in the music, but, not really talking about my experience with Elijah. So he asked, why Elijah, why this, why that? I said, well, you probably think I'm crazy, and I shared my story. He said, Maria, this is, I live in LA. Your story. People out here will accept that story. Uh-huh. I said, really? Because where I am, they all think I'm crazy. He said, listen, I'd love to help you. I think you should create a concept CD and tell your story through your music.
Yeah.
So the one that you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, that track that we titled Control, is because of this person. His name is Jerry, and he still lives in Hollywood, California. And I said to him, and that was at that time, I was keeping my journal, and I said, well, let me take parts of my journal as the concept to tell my story, because I'm not a singer. It's not like there were words and I'm not singing or anything.
Yeah.
It was sound. So I was recording on my keyboard, and literally at that time we didn't have the ability to email sound bites. So I had to record on 8-track tape and mail it to him. And then he would take my keyboard and add the other instruments.
Wow.
Drum track. And he had people around him, musicians, who volunteered. Here we go again. We'll send people to you. Here's people I, to this day, have not met, but there's guitar in some of the tracks. There's flute, as I said, the drum tracks. And they just helped me. And I, of course, played all the keyboard sounds. So I was meditating, recording, and then writing in the liner notes what inspired that particular track and what the story tells through the music.
Maria Cuccia. This is the album and track number 7, and we referenced this, Control. Track number 7 on the album Abduction, actually recorded in 1997.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Our government has flat out lied to us for 40 years or more. They've threatened people and intimidated people. They've spied on UFO groups, infiltrated UFO groups, spied on researchers, compiled dossiers. Their responses bordered on paranoia.
The control one really touched a nerve because I remember when I was having a certain experience back in 2009, aside from having all sorts of physical impact, like the senses are heightened. The hearing is amplified, the smells, the scent, everything is amplified when there's this other element present. But the helicopter sound. Somebody asked me about that. I'm like, yeah, there were helicopters over my house. I have no idea why. Never, not before and not since, have there been that many helicopters swooping down over the house. That was apparently one of the hallmarks of people being observed or watched or interacted. And I didn't know that till later, but I was like, what the heck is it with helicopters? There's a lot that went on. But so that was kind of an indication that, it was legit, it was happening, and somebody pays attention to these things, but they don't talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. Being observed. It's one thing having the experience, but I think the worst part of it is the humans who, I had the helicopters over my house. I was in a park one day speaking with someone who had terrible experiences, with this. And we were talking, and then all of a sudden there were 6 helicopters overhead. It's like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. What is
come
it?
Down and talk with us, you know? Like, what are you trying to intimidate? What
are they picking up on that we're not aware of, because there's something else that's signaling them to pay attention? And I'm thinking, good grief, it's not visible from this end. It is very, very visible telepathically. I mean, that's the whole thing about it. It's telepathic. But where else is it registering that all of a sudden the helicopters appear from out of nowhere, and after a while they go away, but but they don't explain what the purpose was, and those things will never be answered. Hearing the music and hearing the helicopters in the background and the stuff about the control, you become basically a lab rat, whether you want to or not. And so in the beginning, I had the telepathic warning, do not go to conventions, do not go to these events, because you will be targeted. This isn't the innocent field that most people would believe it to be, because there are people who are curious about this, and they act just like one of the experiencers when they're gathering evidence. And so that's a part of this field that I didn't really understand until I got the message, the strong messages to stay away. Everybody has their own path to follow. But when I had those experiences for real and warnings, once you make those connections, you learn to trust. It's an initial learning curve of, am I making this up? Is this really happening to me? And can anybody else see it? Those are important phases and stages you go through. Journaling is 100% a relief, a check. So you can say, all right, did this happen? Did I remember it incorrectly? Because 6 months later, some things will make sense that had no, in the moment, they didn't fit. There was no way to, to integrate that. And then after about 10 years, which is how long it takes, it becomes like, oh yeah, that's old hat. Okay, no biggie. Yeah, we're good. I'm listening.
That's it.
I love the fact that you incorporate your music, and I do think that the meditation music has a special frequency vibe that will help people either, engage, open up, release, relax, whatever they need. Everybody's on a different path with this, but that's where I think the component is that unlocks certain things that until you reach a certain vibration, until you relax, until you unwind and just decide to be who you are, it's a locked box. And this is one of the ways that I think that we have to connect and communicate. And I love the sound is just brilliant.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I appreciate that. I think it should be like listening, again, whether it's mine or now there's so much meditation music available, but I think it should become a habit for people to just take that break throughout the day, from all the noise, and sit with some relaxing music and reflect.
Yes.
Calm the mind. Yeah. I really think it's so healthy.
You're starting from scratch again. What happened? Can you?
went through what so many people did. I know I'm not alone with this. My mother struggled with Alzheimer's, so I became her caregiver. My father had passed, and 1 month later, my mother was diagnosed. My whole world was shaken at the time, and I had moved in and became her caregiver for a while, and then eventually we had to put her in a home. I had a house on Long Island. I was divorced during that time, and was running a business, and life was hectic. And my mother had passed, and everyone, including myself, had gotten really ill. We all thought we had the flu, only to find out it was COVID.
Yeah.
And, and then New York went on lockdown, and I couldn't even hug my grandchildren. It was that whole moment that we all suffered with. I think my mother was always a businesswoman, always busy, and I was following her footsteps in life. And I think it just all hit me. And I said, you know what? It's not worth it. And sold the house basically at a loss because I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Licensed rights to my business, and woke up one night and looked for places for rent in Florida and left. I left Long Island, left I have a 7'5" grand piano. It's at this woman's house that I was teaching her piano. I said, why don't you just hold on to my piano for a while? Keyboards, put away everything. I literally came to Florida, not even seeing the apartment, but the main thing that I brought was my box full of my journal entries. So I purged everything and just started to reflect. So now that I've done it, I published the book just a few months ago. It was the end of 2025, late, I think, November, early December. And as I said, it's like that first phase of what I went through, and I'm inspired to just keep writing now. But now I want to record the music. So I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I feel another shift occurring right now, mm-hmm. where I want to bring the piano back. I don't want to go back to Long Island. I'm too used to the sunshine now all year round, and I'm loving it. So,
yeah.
So I would need a house. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'm just feeling a shift because I want to bring that piano. And it's a big piano. It's not a baby grand. It's a grand.
Yeah.
So I'm searching for a house just for my piano.
Big
honestly.
enough, yes.
That's what I'm telling everybody. So we'll see what happens.
Well, and your YouTube channel, too, for people who are, just finding you and finding your music, Elijah, Child of an Alien Abduction, the true story, you have the video there. So that's a wonderful introduction as well.
That was someone from Italy. Someone who has a podcast in Italy had invited me to be a guest, and he created that.
All these little bits and pieces add up. And as you continue, as you continue to tell your story, and you started mid-90s when you were on, I can't remember which show it was, but when
The Other Side.
Yes.
Yes, that was another thing. Yeah, and again, this is just, I'm going with that flow. I'm not forcing anything. It's not that I'm saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. As a businesswoman, I always did that. Okay,
mm-hmm.
we do this, first quarter two, we're doing that. So I'm going with the flow right now, and but yes, that's what's happening. Yeah, and whatever's meant to be will happen, and I accept that. I've been controlled my whole life, but I no longer, I just want to let go of control and surrender and see what happens.
Some of it has, like you're talking about, feeling that energy, feeling that vibe, that connection. When you let go, that becomes
mm-hmm.
stronger. And then you realize, oh my gosh, that's what I was overlooking. I was discounting that. I was like, I don't have time for this. No, I have to do this. This is on my schedule. This is my routine. This is what I do, and I can't do that.
Right.
It was like, no, the routine and the schedule are just fiction until you figure out how to listen to the other part.
Amen. I agree, Wendy.
Yeah.
Very well put. That's exactly it. Just let go. So I think I wrote on for one of the meditation pieces. That's what I call it. It's just surrender, just let go, and see what happens. Yeah, there is more power in that. I think the other thing is there's so many stories that are frightening about these experiences, which is understandable because it's always the fear of the unknown. But ever since I was a child, I've been writing stories about these funny creatures. And I realize, looking back now, I just seem to have been visited since a very young age, but viewed non-human entities as funny creatures. And I think that's what has helped me throughout my life, is just not fearing these experiences and having more of a curiosity about it. So, even that experience where on the craft and there's these non-human beings, I wasn't screaming and shouting, "Where am I? What are you doing to me?" I was feeling curious. What is this? Who are you? What is that my son? So that seems to be my personality, is just like, why is that happening? Why is this?
Yeah.
So if you let go, and it's just like kind of a message to people, like, that's why there's so many movies where, they're just instilling fear of the unknown. And, if you have this happening to you, you must battle it and fight it and attack. That's an energy, it's just like seeing a bear. Somebody could see a bear and scream, and that bear will attack them. But if someone else sees a bear and just says, "Oh, look at this amazing animal," they'll have a peaceful moment with that bear. So it's our energy that turns the experience into what the result is going to be. It's either going to be something negative or it could be something positive. Once again, when I had the experience, it was more of like, I need to know, what was this? Is there a boy? Is this my son? Who took him from me? Where is he? But then I said, wait a minute, just stop, let go, and I held on to faith. Like, if it's happening for a reason. Everybody who knows me says, okay, if it happened to you, it happened for a reason. Just calm down, let it be. And that's when it becomes almost fun in a way, what's going to happen next along this incredible journey that we call life,
A big part of it is when you're curious, then you're open and you're looking and you're exploring and you're finding details that other people miss because they're too busy putting up a defense. Even Whitley Strieber, he started out, he was frightened and he was angry and he'd all sorts of resistance to it. And it was fear-based, and you got that from his books. I didn't like them because of that. And then he shifted and realized, well, okay, I'm putting up a big fight for no reason. Why? The next song on the playlist from the album Abduction is a nod to Whitley Strieber.
Where were these images from? Reality? Imagination? Were they nothing more than my own frightened apotheosis of the visitors? Unfortunately, I could not know an answer to these questions. Thus, I was unable to put this particular fear to rest. But I was also unwilling to demean a relationship that was beginning to bear such marvelous fruit. I decided not only to live with my fear, but to plunge deeper, if I could, into the relationship. That seemed to me to be the only way to learn. to you. For everyone who asks receives, he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks the door will be opened.
Track number 11 from the album Abduction, recorded in 1997, a sample, and excerpts from Whitley Strieber's book Transformation. And recently, he's actually updated the book Transformation. Check it out. But I also think it's worth pointing out, the others who are visiting us, they aren't one size fits all.
Right.
So
I agree.
So this isn't just one little unit out there. There's like a whole bunch of little units, and you never know who you're going to run into. So it helps to be kind to start out with and go from there. There's a reason for all of this.
Yes.
Most of it, I think, is...
I'm not sure.
Well, I think it's so that we can help expand our species, that we can learn and grow in our consciousness awareness instead of trying to kill everybody all the time.
Right.
That in order for us to grow and become more functional in the greater universe, then we have to figure out how to get our act in order in terms of what we're thinking, because those thinking thoughts are loud. And if you ask some of the animals that are around us, they're too loud. It's like, oh, the humans are here. Here they are again.
Yes.
Soap opera city. Once you learn that you can connect with these other beings, animals, ants, trees, spiders, all these things that you can connect, then your world expands. And all of a sudden life gets really interesting. And there's so much here to explore. One lifetime isn't enough. So
I know.
Those are my experiences as a result of this connection. As a result of this connection, I feel inspired. I feel energized and motivated to help people get their stories out. Because the more we connect with others who've had these experiences, the more we can connect a few dots ourselves. And, well, if you can do this, maybe I can do this.
Yes. Yes. It's so important now.
So of the music that you've done, your meditations, which one is your favorite?
Timeless Breath, which I have. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that one. I just still remember recording that piece. I was always in tune to the way we breathe. And, like you're saying, life's so short, So I'll take deep breaths throughout the day. Not that I'm like that 24/7, trust me, but I just try to remind myself, But Timeless Breath, there was a lot of thought that went into that one.
So I can play that one here.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can play that one here.
That. Thank you.
So that's our introduction. I just thought, all right, you're the one who created these, and which one resonates? And I listened to all. I tried to put likes on all of them.
Thank you.
I was here, I was here, check, I was here, check. Oh, that's just my way of saying.
Someday I hope we actually meet. It would be wonderful to meet you.
Well, we've met, it's just that.
Yes.
That's the beauty of this. You can meet people without ever leaving, getting in the car and buying a bunch of gas or getting on a plane. You can just say, hey, this is so cool to connect. And at least that's my view of the world we have now, because we used to be so much more isolated, and it was difficult to make connections. And so now I think that's one of the benefits of the technology we have now. It's given us more ways to find out how much we have in common.
So true.
timeless breath. The book is out. His name is Elijah. Did you get information about any of the other children?
No, but I had written a story once called The Missing Children. It's all interesting, Wendy. I mean, so much now, the more I speak and the more people I speak with, the more I feel that there's almost like, having amnesia and things are beginning to surface again, that are suppressed. So I feel there is a knowing deep down of what did occur with the children. I do not have a conscious memory of what that was about. I know what I wrote about. I wrote a story in the past about children being taken from here, from this plane, and being educated. And now there's so many stories coming out of people who were talking, what is it called? The Gateway program? Are you familiar with that at all?
What's it called?
I think it's called the Gateway program.
Oh, the Gateway. That's the Monroe Institute.
Yes. Somehow I feel a correlation between that and what I saw, with children. What it means, I'm not clear on it yet, but I feel that
well, maybe
explore it because
do I have the right? The Gateway program, which is a way to help you get deep into your meditation experience, where you're going beyond this plane into multiple planes, different dimensions. Is that what does that?
Yes. And I'm just really hearing about this recently. I didn't know anything about that.
Okay.
That this is what's happening. So I wrote a few things that seemed to be connected to that. How did I know that? How was that coming out in the story I had written, over 30 years ago? Just a fictional story about children being taken from this planet or taken somewhere.
Yeah.
And then going through these processes or these programs. So where did that come from? I'm not sure. There's a lot that has been suppressed with me because I was forced to be silent for over 30 years. So it's gradually coming out. That's why I'm feeling, I still need to meditate. I still need to write and let things surface naturally when they're supposed to.
Well, I think that's real. I mean, in terms of there are certain pieces of information that will be stored until you are ready or they are needed. Right. And one way or the other, it's basically, it's a library, and it's in the library until that particular chapter is needed and will be received from the outside. It's like having access to an entire reservoir and you only need the puddle.
Yes. I mean, it's so true.
Yeah.
That's right. I could share with you because I know you've been there, done that, you felt that, So
it's just one of those things where when you have a download, and I never used to call it that. I was just like, okay, I've got information, and then they download. Okay, well, now I understand better that language, because when you get all this information, it can be overwhelming and draining and tiring. And when I first started channeling, I would have to I would clear myself, meditate, and then that was a clean slate, and then channeling, and it would just feel like all of a sudden it was the mother load of information, and I would be done, and I'd be like, whoa, after that I'd be full of energy and just really hyped and super, and then I'd be exhausted.
Yes, it's draining. It's like, absolutely.
And then you crash, it's like, whoa, this is excellent. And then, and so you crash. And so, candy bar or something. Anyway, I had a routine.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's when I kind of envy Whitley Strieber, because he says he has something planted in his ear. It's almost like a switch that he switches on. He can turn it on and off when he's writing. I'm like, geez, that would be a better way to handle it, because I know it's in there, but do I have time for this? Do I want this to happen? But again, you have to let go of that control.
I learned about jewels and gemstones, and the one thing that immediately that I got to help me deal with the headaches and deal with the over amplification, whatever, I had a beautiful, it broke, but I had it for 20 years or so, a hematite necklace. And so now I have bracelets and the stones and stuff, but I would use that to help me. And basically what it helps do is ground the energy and help me balance so that it doesn't overwhelm me. And because the headaches were real, and that just being overamped and wired for sound and then all of a sudden crashing, it's like, what do I do to deal with this? It was so funny. I worked with a Native American, Eva White Desert Eagle, and she's a shaman, and she was helping me, and she said, here's a bracelet, and she handmade all of her jewelry, so she gave me this bracelet, beautiful bracelet, cut stones, the hematite stones, and I was wearing it, and I'm like, I can't wear this, it's burning me, and that is not what you feel with that. And I told her, I said, I love it, I really like it, but it's burning me, and she says, that's because you're not in sync. Our energy is not in sync. And so that was one of the first things I learned years ago, that it makes a difference with your jewelry, with the items that you choose as adornments, whatever, that certain stones and certain elements of the creation of the stone create an impact, a vibration. And anyway, so there's just so much more to this than we are taught initially, that is part of the learning when you start exploring and experiencing an expanded awareness, and those others who are out there just having all sorts of fun at our expense because we're clueless.
I know.
Yes. It's like, okay, we're catching on. All right. Believe me, we're catching on. It's painful, but it's happening.
It is. So true.
So, okay, I will close with another meditation, and maybe I should, I'm not sure if I want to activate people or not, but you know what? Why not?
Go for it.
That's the unique part of this one that is activating, which I wasn't quite prepared for. I was like, this is different. And it's called the 5-minute meditation, music for focus. Okay. And it will wake you up. That's all I'm going to say. And then we'll play this as our close.
Good choice.
So, and thank you. I appreciate everything you're doing, and we'll stay connected.
Oh, I appreciate you, Wendy. Really, like I said, it's just a pleasure speaking with you. Anytime.
Well, sending good thoughts for a big house for that honking big piano.
Yes. Help me manifest that.
That's right.
I need a house for my piano. I want it back now.
Okay, draw some pictures. My grandma got some results when she diagrammed her pictures and drew it and said, "Okay, this is happening." Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll do it. You'll be the first to know when it happens.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Wendy. Thank you.
These are sample pieces from Maria's music, available on her website, mariacuccia.com, and her YouTube channel. This next piece, also a meditation piece, is unique. It has a little bit more amplification, designed for focus. She plans to upload some more pieces from the album Abduction, again recorded in 1997. For more information, mariacuccia.com.
I think it should be like listening, again, whether it's mine or now there's so much meditation music available, but I think it should become a habit for people to just take that break throughout the day, from all the noise